Hi guys, today's lesson is over solving word problems using proportions. There are 4 steps here that we want you to take when solving these, and feel free to write these down or pause this as we're going over them here. I'm going to go through them pretty fast. First step, read the problem and identify key information. Second step here, identify the ratio statement, and we'll have an example of this here in a little bit. Third step, set up the proportion. Then fourth step, use cross multiplication or scale factor to solve for whatever the question is, or solve for x, or whatever is missing. All right, let's take a look at an example here. And I'm going to read the problem here first to you. An automobile travels 140 miles on 7 gallons of gasoline. How far can it go on a tank full of gasoline if the tank holds 14 gallons? I just did step 1. I read you the problem. Now I want to go back and underline some key information here. When it says the automobile, it tells me how far the automobile travels on 7 gallons of gasoline. Excuse me. It says it travels 140 miles on 7 gallons of gasoline. That's pretty important information. How far can it go on a tank full of gasoline if the gasoline tank holds, right now it's telling me how much the tank holds here, 14 gallons. Okay? All right, so I've read the problem, I've identified key information, now I have to identify the ratio statement. And I'm going to put brackets around what I think to be the ratio statement is. 140 miles on 7 gallons of gasoline. That appears to be my ratio statement there. And you'll see how it's written here in a little bit. All right, how far can it go on a tank full of gasoline if the tank holds 14 gallons? I know 14 gallons might be part of my other ratio there that I'm going to write. Now it's my job to go ahead and set up my proportions here. But there's going to be one important hint that you're going to want to pay close attention to that will probably make your life a lot easier in setting these up. Here's the hint. Be sure to keep the identical units in the numerators and denominators of the fractions in the proportions. All right, what that means is this. I'm going to go set up my proportions. I have to write 2 ratios here. All right, my first ratio statement is what I saw right above here, what I underlined, that first bracket. Travel 140 miles on 7 gallons of 7 gallons of gasoline there. All right, 7 gallons of gasoline. Now, I want to set up my other ratio here using my 14 gallons. But think about this. When I set up my ratio on the right side here, where do you think the 14 gallons might show up? On the top of the ratio or the bottom of the ratio? In other words, the top part of the fraction or the bottom part of the fraction? The numerator or the denominator? Hopefully you said the denominator here. We want to match up here, all right, the identical units. So in this case, gallons with gallons. I see that they're right across from each other. They're both in the denominators in my ratios here. That's really important. All right, now I've set up the proportion here. Now I want to solve for x because it asks how far can it go on a tank full of gasoline if the tank holds 14 gallons. It appears like we have some pretty nice numbers here. And nice to me would mean, oh, I can use scale factor. In other words, I can look to see how I got from 7 to 14. Okay, if I were to ask you, and again, scale factor, think multiplication, and think multiplication in this case because we're going from small to big here. How did I get from 7 to 14? Well, you see there that I got from 7 to 14 by taking it times 2. Okay, those appear to be nice numbers that I could just multiply really quick. So now I've got to do the same on the top here. I want to take 140 miles times 2, and I know now that 140 times 2 is going to give me 280 miles. All right, so I chose to use a scale factor here to find out what x is, and x now is 280 miles using scale factor there. Okay. All right, just important that you keep the identical units in the same part of the ratios there on the left and the right side. All right, let's take a look at an example when you might use cross multiplication instead of scale factor. All right, on a scale drawing, 3 inches represents 24 feet. I might underline that sentence there right away. In fact, that might be my ratio statement there, and I'll put brackets around this. How tall is, and the question asks, how tall is a building that is 5 inches high? Again, pretty important information here. I might want to identify that as another part of my ratio statement here. All right. I see now that my ratio here on the left, 3 inches represents 24 feet. So 3 inches is on the top part of my ratio, 24 is on the bottom. All right. Think about now, 5 inches high. And I want to match up the units here. Would 5 inches go on the top part or on the bottom part? Hopefully you said on the top part here. All right. And again, it wants to know how tall the building is. So we don't know how tall it is. That's why we're going to put X there for the bottom part of the ratio on the right side. Okay, now we've set up our proportions with the two ratios here. All right, now this might be a case here where you want to multiply across. All right, right now off the top of my head, I can't think of whole numbers here. 3 times what number gives me 5? Okay, I know it's in between 1 and 2, but I need to get exact here. So this is a situation where you might be able to multiply across. All right. And we're talking about the numbers here with the letters. All right. Not so much the numbers with the units there, the measurements. All right. So we have 24 times 5 equals 3 times x. And how did I get that? I just multiplied straight across there. 24 times 5 is 120. 3 times x is just 3x. We don't know what x is yet. All right? Now we're getting down to our final step here. Again, we're using cross multiplication. Think to yourself, 3 times what number gives me 120? Maybe some of you can do that in your head, and you know then that x is 40. Or remember, to solve for x here, once we've got the variable to one side, now to isolate the variable or get it alone by itself, just get it to x, we're going to divide by the number in front of x, which is 3. If we divide by 3 on the right, we better make sure we divide by 3 on the left. And so that would be another way then. 120 divided by 3 is 40. Okay, so 40 now is my answer. Guys, we showed you 2 examples there. You pick the strategy that works best for you, and also be aware of what strategy might work for certain word problems there. All right, thank you.